The suitcase hit the concrete steps so hard that the zipper burst open, spilling clothes into the February snow. Naomi watched from where she knelt on the frozen ground, her 6-year-old son Isaiah clutching her coat with trembling hands. His brown eyes were wide with terror, but no sound came from his lips. It never did. "Please, Travis," Naomi begged, looking up at the man she had loved for 12 years. "Just let us stay until morning." "You sick? It's freezing out here." Travis Mitchell stood in the doorway of the house Naomi had helped buy with her college fund money. The porch light cast shadows across his face, making him look like a stranger. Behind him, Brittany appeared, wearing Naomi's silk robe. The one Naomi had received as a gift from her late mother. "You should have thought about that before you stopped being useful," Travis said coldly. He reached into his pocket and pulled out Naomi's purse. He opened it, removed her wallet, and dumped the contents onto the steps. Lip gloss, receipts, and loose change scattered across the snow. "There. That's all you're getting." "That's my wallet. My ID, my cards." "My cards," Travis corrected. "Everything in this house is mine. The car is mine. This life is mine. You were just borrowing it." He pulled out her credit cards one by one and snapped them in half. "These accounts are closed anyway. Cleaned out. Every penny went to my new start with Brittany." Naomi felt Isaiah's grip tighten on her coat. She pulled him closer, trying to shield him from the wind. "I gave up everything for you. I worked 2 jobs to put you through medical school. I took care of your mother when she was dying." "What?" "You gave me a defective son," Travis interrupted, glancing at Isaiah with disgust. 4 years of trying for a normal kid and you couldn't even do that right? You can't even talk. Do you know how embarrassing it is when my colleagues ask about him?" Isaiah buried his face in Naomi's shoulder. She felt her heart shatter into pieces smaller than the snowflakes falling around them. "He's not defective," Naomi whispered. "He's perfect. He's smart and kind and he's a burden I don't want anymore. Neither of you are." Travis stepped back into the house. "Don't come back. Don't call. I've already filed a restraining order. If you show up here again, I'll have you arrested." Brittany smiled from behind him. "Good luck out there," she said sweetly. "Maybe you should have taken better care of yourself. No wonder he needed someone else." The door slammed shut. The porch light went off, leaving them in darkness. Naomi sat on the frozen steps for a long moment, Isaiah in her arms. She had $23 in her coat pocket. No ID. No cards. No phone. The suitcase at her feet contained some of Isaiah's clothes and a few of her things, but Travis had clearly gone through it first. Anything valuable was gone. She thought about the woman she used to be. Naomi Rodriguez had been top of her class in high school. She had gotten a full scholarship to study business and computer science. She had dreams of starting her own tech company. But then she met Travis Mitchell at a college party. He was charming, ambitious, planning to be a doctor. When he proposed in her sophomore year, she thought she was choosing love. She dropped out to work full-time when he got into medical school. She waitressed during the day and cleaned offices at night. She paid his tuition, his rent, his car payment. She told herself it was an investment in their future. When Isaiah was born and the doctors explained he had selective mutism due to a neurological condition, Naomi had loved him even more fiercely. But Travis had looked at their son like he was broken merchandise. The warmth between them had died that day in the hospital. Now, sitting in the snow with her silent child, Naomi realized the truth. She had been a fool. She had given everything to a man who saw her as a stepping stone. Now that he was an established physician, now that he had his career and his house and his status, she was disposable. Isaiah pulled on her sleeve and pointed down the street. Even at 6, he was remarkably perceptive. He was showing her the bus stop 3 blocks away. "You're right, baby," Naomi said, her voice steadier than she felt. "We need to move." She stood up, her legs stiff from the cold. She picked up what she could carry and took Isaiah's hand. They walked down the quiet suburban street where she had thought she would raise her children and grow old. Every house was dark. No one saw them leave. No one cared. At the bus stop, Naomi counted her money again under the streetlight. $23. The last bus came at midnight. It was 11:30 now. Isaiah tugged on her hand and made a gesture they had developed together. He touched his stomach and then his mouth. He was hungry. "I know, sweetheart," Naomi said. "Soon." But as she sat on the cold bench with her son curled against her side, Naomi made a promise to herself and to him. This was their rock bottom. This was the worst it would ever be. She would build them back up from nothing. She would become so successful that Travis would choke on his regret. She didn't want revenge for herself. She wanted it for Isaiah. She wanted to prove that her son wasn't a burden or defective or wrong. She wanted to show the world what she already knew, that Isaiah was extraordinary. The bus pulled up at 11:58. Naomi used $15 of her $23 for 2 fares. The driver looked at them with pity but said nothing. They sat in the back, Isaiah falling asleep against her shoulder. Naomi stared out at the dark city passing by and began to plan. She had nothing left to lose, which meant she had everything to gain. She would start with a shelter, then a job, then another job. Then she would rebuild the dream she had abandoned. And someday Travis Mitchell would see her name and realize the biggest mistake of his life wasn't marrying her. It was throwing her away. The Hope Street shelter smelled like industrial cleaner and desperation. Naomi filled out the intake forms with a borrowed pen while Isaiah sat beside her, his small hands folded in his lap. The woman processing them was kind but tired, her eyes holding the weight of seeing too many broken families. "We have space in the family wing," she said. "You can stay up to 30 days while you get on your feet. There are job placement services, counseling, and a children's program." "Thank you," Naomi whispered. Their room was 8 by 10 feet with 2 cots, a small locker, and a window that overlooked a parking lot. It was the size of her walk-in closet back at the house. But it was warm. It was safe. It was theirs. Isaiah explored the tiny space while Naomi unpacked their suitcase. She found that Travis had left them mostly clothes, but had taken her laptop, her tablet, and even her old college textbooks. He had left Isaiah's communication cards, the picture cards they used for basic needs, probably because he never understood their value. That night, after a dinner of donated soup and bread in the communal dining hall, Naomi lay on her cot and finally let herself cry. She cried silently so Isaiah wouldn't hear, her hand over her mouth, her body shaking. She had met Travis 12 years ago when she was 19. He was 23, already in pre-med, confident and handsome. He had pursued her relentlessly, showing up at her dorm with coffee, walking her to class, making her feel special. When he proposed after 8 months, her mother had warned her it was too fast. "A man who rushes you is a man who wants to own you," her mother had said. But Naomi thought she knew better. She dropped out of college in her second year. Travis needed her income to supplement his student loans. He promised that once he became a doctor, she could go back to school. She waitressed at a diner from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, then cleaned office buildings from 6 at night until midnight. She slept 4 hours a night for 3 years. When Travis graduated medical school and got his residency, things were supposed to get better. But the hours got longer and the distance between them grew. He started criticizing everything: her appearance, her cooking, her inability to network with the other doctors' wives who had college degrees and career paths. Then Isaiah was born. The pregnancy had been difficult. The delivery was traumatic. And when the pediatric neurologist diagnosed Isaiah with selective mutism at age 2, Travis had looked at her like she had personally failed him. "Other men have normal kids," he said. "What did you do wrong?" Naomi had thrown herself into research. She learned about nonverbal communication, sensory processing, alternative learning methods. She discovered that Isaiah wasn't unable to communicate, he just did it differently. He was smart, observant, creative. He drew pictures that showed complex understanding. He solved puzzles meant for children twice his age. But Travis refused to see it. He refused to attend therapy sessions or school meetings. He started working later hours. Then came the unexplained credit card charges. The secretive phone calls. The smell of unfamiliar perfume. 6 months ago, Naomi had found a hotel receipt in his jacket pocket. The same weekend he claimed to be at a medical conference. She had hired a private investigator with money saved from her cleaning job. The photos were conclusive. Travis and Brittany had been having an affair for 8 months. Brittany was a pharmaceutical sales representative who called on Travis's practice. Naomi had consulted a lawyer. She learned that she had rights, that she could take half of everything, that Travis's adultery mattered. She had started scanning documents, saving bank statements, recording arguments where Travis admitted to the affair. She was building a case. But she had moved too slowly. Travis must have suspected. He had emptied their bank accounts, transferred assets, consulted his own lawyer. The night he threw them out, Naomi realized he had been planning it for weeks. Now, lying in a homeless shelter, Naomi understood that her careful planning had been both too slow and exactly right. She had evidence. She had documentation. She still had digital copies backed up in an email account Travis didn't know existed. The lawyer she consulted had kept copies too. She wasn't as powerless as Travis thought. Isaiah made a small sound in his sleep, not quite a word but close. Naomi got up and went to his cot. She smoothed his hair and pulled the thin blanket higher. In the dim light from the parking lot, she studied his face. He looked like her, brown skin, dark curls, long eyelashes. He had her mother's nose. Nothing of Travis except perhaps his stubborn chin. "I promise you," she whispered, "this won't be our life. We're going to do more than survive. We're going to thrive. And someday everyone will know your name." Isaiah slept on, peaceful despite everything. Naomi went to the small desk in the corner and found paper in the locker. She began to write. First, immediate needs, job, income, childcare. Second, short-term goals, apartment, stability, legal action. Third, long-term vision, education, business, success. She thought about the dreams she had before Travis. She had wanted to create technology that helped people. She had been fascinated by communication systems and accessibility. In another life, she might have created something revolutionary. Then it hit her. Isaiah communicated through pictures and gestures. Millions of children and adults around the world were nonverbal for various reasons. Autism, stroke, trauma, disability. They all needed better tools than laminated picture cards and expensive specialized devices. What if she created an app? Something affordable, customizable, intuitive. Something that turned a simple tablet into a powerful communication device. Naomi had taught herself basic coding in high school. She had taken 2 computer science classes before dropping out. Could she rebuild those skills? Could she learn what she needed to know? She looked at Isaiah sleeping peacefully and felt something shift inside her. This wasn't just about revenge on Travis anymore. This was about purpose. This was about taking the worst thing that ever happened to them and transforming it into something meaningful. The shelter's counselor had mentioned they had donated computers in the resource center. Naomi could use them during the day while Isaiah was in the children's program. She could teach herself to code. She could build a prototype. For the first time since being thrown out in the snow, Naomi smiled. Tomorrow she would start rebuilding. Not the life she had lost, but something better. Something entirely her own. 3 weeks into living at the shelter, Naomi sat in front of a donated computer in the resource center. The counselor, Mrs. Harris, had given her 2 hours of computer time per day. Isaiah was in the children's program down the hall, learning through play with other kids. Naomi logged into the email account Travis didn't know about. She had created it years ago for a freelance cleaning business she thought about starting. The inbox contained exactly what she remembered: hundreds of forwarded bank statements, scanned documents, and photos. She clicked on the folder labeled Evidence and began to review. First, the financial records. For the past 8 months, Travis had been systematically draining their joint accounts. Transfers to an account in only his name. Cash withdrawals of $500 every week. Credit card charges at expensive restaurants, hotels, jewelry stores. All while telling Naomi they needed to cut back on groceries. Second, the photographs from the private investigator. Travis and Brittany entering hotels together. Kissing in parking lots. Holding hands at restaurants. Brittany wearing a diamond bracelet that Naomi recognized from their credit card statement. Purchased for $3,000 the same week Travis claimed they couldn't afford Isaiah's therapy sessions. Third, and most damning, the recorded conversations. Naomi had started recording arguments on her phone 6 months ago when Travis became verbally abusive. In one recording, Travis clearly stated, "Yes, I'm having an affair. What are you going to do about it? With what money? You have nothing without me." In another, he said, "Isaiah is the reason I can't stand being in this house. If you had given me a normal son, maybe I wouldn't need Brittany." Naomi's hands trembled as she listened. Even now, knowing what he was capable of, the words still cut deep. But there was more. As she dug deeper into the files, she found something she had almost forgotten about. Before the affair, before Isaiah was born, Travis had done something illegal. During his residency, Travis had accessed patient medication records to write prescriptions for painkillers under fake patient names. He had sold them to a friend who was addicted. It was a small-scale operation, only lasting a few months before Travis got scared and stopped. But Naomi had found the evidence when she was organizing his old files 2 years ago. She had confronted him. He had cried, begged her not to report him, promised it was a mistake from when he was young and desperate. She had kept the evidence just in case, never imagining she would need it. Now, looking at the scanned prescription pads and the notes in Travis's handwriting, Naomi understood she held leverage. If Travis tried to claim she had no right to anything in the divorce, she could destroy him. His medical license, his career, his freedom. She didn't want to use it. She wasn't that person. but knowing she had it felt like holding a shield. Mrs. Harris knocked on the door of the computer room. "Naomi? Your time is almost up. How are you doing?" "I'm good," Naomi said, quickly closing the files. "Just checking some old emails." Mrs. Harris sat down beside her. She was a black woman in her 50s with kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a bun. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course. What happened to you and Isaiah? You don't seem like the typical situation we see here. You speak well, you're organized, you have job experience. How did you end up with nothing?" Naomi hesitated, then told her the truth. The whole story spilled out. Meeting Travis, giving up school, working multiple jobs, Isaiah's birth, the affair, being thrown out in the snow. Mrs. Harris listened without interrupting. When Naomi finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "You know you can fight this legally," she finally said. "I know. I have a lawyer. I consulted with her before everything fell apart. Her name is Patricia Hughes. She told me I have rights to half of everything, plus spousal support, plus child support." "So why haven't you called her?" Naomi looked at her hands. "Because I'm ashamed. I'm living in a shelter. I have $8 to my name. How am I going to pay for a divorce lawyer? How am I going to fight someone who has money and power and connections?" "You have something he doesn't," Mrs. Harris said firmly. "You have truth on your side. You have evidence. And you have more strength than you know." She pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. "This is a women's legal aid organization. They take cases like yours pro bono. Call them. Tell them I referred you." Naomi took the card with shaking hands. "Thank you." "And Naomi? Stop thinking of yourself as a victim. You're a survivor. There's a difference. Victims wait for rescue. Survivors create their own salvation." That night, after Isaiah was asleep, Naomi sat on her cot and thought about Mrs. Harris's words. Survivor, not victim. The distinction mattered. She thought about the past 6 months when she knew about the affair but stayed quiet. She had been gathering evidence, yes, but she had also been afraid. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of failing. Afraid of proving Travis right, that she was nothing without him. But these weeks in the shelter had taught her something unexpected. She wasn't nothing. She was resourceful. She was resilient. She was capable of more than she had imagined. During the day while Isaiah was in the children's program, Naomi had been working. She had gotten a job through the shelter's employment program, cleaning offices in a downtown building from 6 p.m. to midnight. It paid $12 an hour under the table. She had also been using her computer time to teach herself coding through free online tutorials. Every night after work, she came back to the shelter exhausted but determined. She spent an hour learning programming languages, understanding app development, studying user interface design. She had a vision now. An app for nonverbal communication. Something that would help Isaiah and millions like him. Something that would prove her worth had nothing to do with Travis. But first, she needed to deal with her past before she could build her future. The next morning, Naomi called the legal aid number Mrs. Harris had given her. She explained her situation to the intake coordinator. Within an hour, she had an appointment scheduled with an attorney named Rachel Green for the following week. That afternoon, she called Patricia Hughes, the lawyer she had originally consulted. "Ms. Rodriguez," Patricia said warmly, "I've been worried about you. Are you and Isaiah safe? We're in a shelter, but we're safe. I heard about what happened. Travis's lawyer called me, warning me not to represent you. That told me everything I needed to know about his character." "I can't afford you," Naomi admitted. "I'm calling to get copies of the documents I left with you and to thank you for your advice." "What if I told you that you don't need to afford me?" Naomi's heart skipped. "I don't understand. I took your case to my firm's pro bono committee. We accept 2 cases per year where we believe there's a profound injustice. They approved yours unanimously. Naomi, I want to represent you for free. I want to make Travis Mitchell regret what he did." Naomi sat down hard on her cot. "Are you serious?" "Completely. I've already started the paperwork. We're going to file for divorce, full custody, child support, spousal support, and division of assets. We're going to take him for everything he's worth legally. And if he fights us, we're going to make it very public what kind of man abandons his wife and disabled son." For the first time in weeks, Naomi laughed. It was a sound of relief and hope and fierce joy. "When do we start?" "I'm filing the papers tomorrow. Travis will be served within 48 hours. Get ready, Naomi. This is going to be a fight." "Good," Naomi said. "I'm ready." The weekly rental room cost $350. It was in a building that had seen better days with peeling paint and stairs that creaked, but it had a lock on the door and it was theirs. Naomi and Isaiah moved in on a rainy April morning, 2 months after being thrown out in the snow. The room had a double bed, a kitchenette with a hot plate and mini fridge, and a bathroom they shared with the tenant across the hall. Isaiah immediately claimed the space by the window where light came in, setting up his drawing supplies on the small table. Naomi had saved every penny from her cleaning job. She bought a used tablet for $50 from a pawn shop and downloaded free educational apps for Isaiah. She bought groceries from the discount store: rice, beans, eggs, bread. She calculated that they could survive on $15 a week for food if she was careful. During the day, Isaiah attended a special needs program at the local public school. Naomi had enrolled him using the shelter's address, and the school social worker had helped expedite the process. Isaiah's teacher, Mrs. Patterson, was a woman in her 60s who had taught special education for 30 years. She took one look at Isaiah and his communication cards and immediately understood. "He's brilliant," she told Naomi at their first meeting. "He's reading at a 4th grade level. His comprehension is exceptional. He just processes language differently." "His father thought he was stupid," Naomi said quietly. Mrs. Patterson's expression hardened. "His father was the stupid one then." Mrs. Patterson became an unexpected ally. She stayed late with Isaiah 3 days a week, working with him for free, refusing to accept payment. "This is my calling," she said simply. "I'm not doing it for money." With Isaiah in good hands during the day, Naomi focused on building their future. She kept her night cleaning job, 6 p.m. to midnight, 5 days a week. That gave her 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. to work on her real goal. She spent every morning at the public library using their computers. She worked through coding tutorials, learning Python, JavaScript, and Swift. She studied app development, user interface design, and accessibility standards. She read research papers on augmentative and alternative communication. The librarian, Mr. Chin, noticed her dedication. He started setting aside books for her: computer programming guides, business development texts, biographies of tech entrepreneurs. He never asked questions, just helped. By June, 3 months after being thrown out, Naomi had built a basic prototype. It was rough, clunky, and had limited functionality. But it worked. Users could tap pictures to form sentences, and the app would speak them aloud. They could customize the pictures with their own photos. They could save common phrases for quick access. She tested it with Isaiah. The first time he used it to say, "I love you, Mom," the app's synthetic voice reading his selected words, Naomi cried for an hour. "This is amazing," Mrs. Patterson said when Naomi showed her. "Do you know what something like this could do for my students? For families everywhere? I'm going to make it better," Naomi promised. "I'm going to make it incredible." But she needed help. Real developers. Proper design. Testing. Funding. Naomi started researching startup incubators and investors. She learned about pitch competitions, angel investors, and venture capital. She read every article she could find about founders who had started with nothing. One name kept appearing: Regina Hammond. A black woman who had built a venture capital firm focused on investing in female founders and underrepresented entrepreneurs. Her fund had launched companies that were now worth billions. Naomi knew it was a long shot. Women like Regina Hammond didn't take meetings with women living in weekly rentals. But she had to try. She spent 2 weeks crafting the perfect email. She explained her story, her vision, and her prototype. She included screenshots and a demo video. She sent it at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday, hoping it wouldn't get lost in the inbox. She didn't expect a response. 3 days later, her phone rang. The library had helped her get a basic cell phone through a low-income program. "Is this Naomi Rodriguez?" a professional voice asked. "Yes. This is Regina Hammond's office. Miss Hammond would like to meet with you next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Are you available?" Naomi nearly dropped the phone. Yes, absolutely. Excellent. Please bring your prototype and be prepared to present for 30 minutes. Naomi had 6 days to prepare. She worked 18-hour days refining her presentation, improving her prototype, practicing her pitch in the mirror. Mrs. Patterson helped watch Isaiah in the evenings. The landlord let her use his printer to print her materials. The night before the meeting, Naomi laid out her one professional outfit: a black pantsuit she had worn to Travis's medical school graduation 8 years ago. It was outdated and a little loose now, but it was clean and pressed. Isaiah came and sat beside her on the bed. He pulled out his tablet and selected pictures. "You plus smart plus win. You think I'm smart and I'll win?" Naomi translated. He nodded vigorously and hugged her. I hope you're right, baby, she whispered. The next morning, Naomi took 2 buses to reach Regina Hammond's office building in the financial district. The lobby was all glass and marble, the kind of place where she used to clean toilets and empty trash cans at night. Now she was walking through the front door in daylight, heading to the executive elevators. Regina Hammond's office was on the 45th floor. Naomi was 15 minutes early. She sat in the waiting area, her hands sweating, her heart pounding. At exactly 10 a.m., Regina's assistant came to get her. Miss Hammond will see you now. Regina Hammond was a tall woman in her 50s with natural hair styled in elegant locks, wearing a burgundy suit that probably cost more than Naomi's monthly rent. Her office overlooked the entire city. On the walls were framed magazine covers featuring companies she had invested in. Ms. Rodriguez, Regina said, shaking her hand firmly. Thank you for coming. I have to tell you, your email was the most compelling pitch I've read in 5 years. Tell me everything. Naomi took a deep breath and began to speak. She told the truth, about Isaiah, about being thrown out, about living in a shelter, about building the prototype in libraries and on borrowed computers. She explained her vision for an affordable, accessible communication app that could help millions. She showed the demo. She presented her market research. She outlined her business plan. Regina listened without interrupting, her expression unreadable. When Naomi finished, there was a long silence. How much do you need? Regina finally asked. What? How much funding do you need to turn this prototype into a real product? Naomi had prepared 3 different funding scenarios: conservative, moderate, and ambitious. $2 million would allow me to hire a development team, conduct proper testing, and launch within 18 months. Regina leaned back in her chair. I'll give you $2 million for 20% equity. Naomi's vision blurred. You'll what? I want to invest in your company. I want to be part of this. But I need to know something first. What's your end game? Is this about revenge on your ex-husband, or is this about building something real? Naomi thought about Travis and Brittany in the house she had helped buy. She thought about being thrown out in the snow. She thought about all the nights crying in the shelter. Then she thought about Isaiah's face when he used the app to communicate. She thought about Mrs. Patterson's students. She thought about millions of families struggling to connect with their nonverbal loved ones. It started as anger, Naomi admitted, but it's become purpose. This is bigger than revenge. This is about creating something that matters. Regina smiled. That's the right answer. Welcome to Hammond Ventures, Naomi. Let's change the world. They shook hands. Naomi's hand was trembling. As she left the office building and stepped into the sunshine, Naomi pulled out her phone and selected a picture message for Isaiah at school. A party hat emoji and a thumbs up. Mrs. Patterson sent back. He's dancing. Naomi laughed out loud on the busy street. 6 months ago she had nothing. Now she had everything that mattered: hope, purpose, and a real chance to build the life she dreamed of. Travis had thrown her away thinking she was worthless. He was about to learn just how wrong he was. The office space Regina found for them was small, just 1,200 square feet in a mixed-use building, but to Naomi it felt like a palace. 3 rooms. One for development, one for testing, and one that would serve as her office and Isaiah's after-school space. She hired her first employee in August, Marcus Chin, a developer who had recently been laid off from a major tech company. No wait, she couldn't use Marcus or Chen. Let me revise that. She hired her first employee in August, Danny Park, a developer who had recently been laid off from a major tech company. He was willing to work for equity plus a modest salary because he believed in the mission. His younger brother had cerebral palsy and used picture cards to communicate. This could have changed my family's life 10 years ago, Danny said when she showed him the prototype. Let's make it amazing. The second hire was Simone Wright, a UX designer who specialized in accessibility. She had worked for nonprofits designing interfaces for people with disabilities. She took one look at Naomi's basic prototype and immediately saw its potential. The functionality is there, Simone said, but the interface needs work. It needs to be intuitive enough for a 3-year-old and sophisticated enough for adults. It needs to work for people with limited motor control, vision impairment, cognitive differences. Can you do that? Naomi asked. Give me 3 months, Simone promised. The third hire was the most important. Dr. Helen Foster, a speech-language pathologist with 30 years of experience in augmentative and alternative communication. She had written textbooks on the subject and had consulted for major medical companies. She was semi-retired but agreed to join as chief clinical advisor. Most communication apps are designed by engineers who've never worked with nonverbal individuals, Dr. Foster explained at their first team meeting. They don't understand the nuances. They don't know what actually helps versus what looks good on paper. You do because you're living it. That's why this will succeed. They named the company TalkBridge Technologies. The app would be called BridgeSpeak. For 6 months the team worked obsessively. Danny coded features that seemed impossible. Voice customization so users could choose how they sounded, picture libraries organized by frequency of use and context, predictive text that learned individual communication patterns. Simone designed an interface that was both beautiful and functional, with customizable layouts for different age groups and ability levels. Dr. Foster brought in volunteers for testing. Children and adults with autism, stroke survivors, people with ALS, individuals with cerebral palsy. She observed how they interacted with each version of the app, noting what worked and what created barriers. Naomi managed it all while still being present for Isaiah. She had moved them to a small 2-bedroom apartment in September. Nothing fancy, but it had a real kitchen and a bedroom for Isaiah decorated with his drawings. Every evening she picked him up from Mrs. Patterson's program and they tested new features together. Isaiah became their most important tester. He was honest in a way adults couldn't be. If something was confusing, he got frustrated and showed them. If something worked well, his face lit up. The breakthrough came in November. Danny figured out how to integrate natural language processing so the app could predict what users wanted to say based on context. If someone selected I and want, the app would suggest commonly paired words like food, help, mom, break. It learned individual patterns over time. The first time Isaiah used it to construct a complex sentence. Mom, I want to tell you that I love the new apartment and I'm happy we have our own space. The entire team gathered around to watch. When the app read the sentence aloud in its clear, synthetic voice, everyone cried. That's it, Dr. Foster said. That's exactly what families need. In January, 1 year after being thrown out in the snow, Naomi launched BridgeSpeak in beta testing. They gave it away free to 100 families and organizations. The feedback was overwhelming. Parents sent videos of their children using full sentences for the first time. Stroke survivors wrote about regaining the ability to have conversations with their families. Teachers reported that students were more engaged in school when they could participate in discussions. The media picked up on it. A local news station did a story about Naomi's journey from homeless to tech founder. A parenting magazine featured BridgeSpeak in their assistive technology roundup. A disability advocacy organization gave them an award. Then, in February, something unexpected happened. A celebrity, a famous actor named Jordan Brooks whose 6-year-old daughter had autism, posted a video on social media showing his daughter using BridgeSpeak to tell him she loved him. The video went viral. Within 48 hours, BridgeSpeak had been downloaded 50,000 times. Regina called Naomi immediately. Are your servers ready for this? We're scaling up as fast as we can, Naomi said, watching the download numbers climb in real time. Good. Because I'm getting calls from investors who want in. Naomi, you're about to become very successful very fast. Are you ready? Naomi thought about the shelter, the weekly rental, the nights cleaning offices, Isaiah's face when he couldn't communicate and Travis's disgust. All of it felt both very close and impossibly far away. I'm ready, she said. By March, BridgeSpeak had been downloaded 1 million times. They had moved to tiered pricing, free basic version, premium version for $20 per month with advanced features, and institutional licenses for schools and hospitals. Revenue was exceeding projections. Naomi hired more staff. The team grew to 20 people. They moved to a larger office. She finally paid herself a real salary, not much, just enough to move Isaiah to a better apartment and buy a used car so she didn't have to take buses anymore. Mrs. Patterson attended their team celebration party. She hugged Naomi tightly and whispered, I knew you had this in you. I saw it the first day we met. That night, Naomi received an email from Patricia Hughes, her divorce lawyer. The subject line read, You need to see this. The email contained a link to a news article. The headline made her hands shake. Local physician under investigation for insurance fraud and prescription violations. The article detailed how Dr. Travis Mitchell was being investigated by the state medical board for billing insurance companies for procedures never performed and for writing inappropriate prescriptions. Multiple patients had filed complaints. The investigation had been ongoing for months. Patricia's email continued, Travis's lawyer contacted me today. They want to settle the divorce immediately. No fight over assets. They're offering you everything you asked for plus additional child support. They want this finished before the medical board hearing. Call me. Naomi sat in the dark of her new apartment, reading the article again. Travis had been so sure he was untouchable. So confident that his career and his money protected him. Now it was all falling apart. She felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just a quiet sense of justice. She didn't need Travis's money anymore. She was building her own empire. But she would take it anyway because it was Isaiah's right. Because Travis owed them for the years of sacrifice and the cruelty. She called Patricia. Take everything. But I have conditions. Name them. Full legal and physical custody of Isaiah. Travis gets supervised visitation only if Isaiah wants it. Full child support based on Travis's previous income, paid monthly. Half of all marital assets. And one more thing. What's that? He has to sign a document stating he relinquishes any claim to my company or my future earnings. Bridge speak is mine alone. Done. I'll have the papers drawn up tomorrow. Naomi hung up and looked out the window at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Travis was panicking, watching his perfect life crumble. Brittany had probably already left him. Women like that didn't stick around when the money dried up. Meanwhile, Naomi was building something real. Something that mattered. She went to Isaiah's room and watched him sleep. He looked peaceful, his tablet on the nightstand beside him, his BridgeSpeak app open to a page that said, "Good night, Mom. I love you." "We did it, baby," she whispered. "We're just getting started." The conference room on the 52nd floor had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Naomi stood at the head of the table, her presentation queued up on the screen, facing 15 potential investors. Regina had arranged this pitch meeting. Series of funding round. The goal was to raise $20 million to scale BridgeSpeak nationally and expand into international markets. Naomi wore a navy suit she had bought for this moment. Her natural hair was styled in elegant twists. She looked successful because she was successful. BridgeSpeak now had 3 million users. Revenue was at 15 million annually and growing. But she needed this funding to take the next leap. "Good morning," she began, her voice steady. "2 years ago, I was homeless with my 6-year-old son. Today, I run a company that has transformed communication for millions of people with disabilities. Let me tell you how we got here and where we're going." She clicked to the first slide, a photo of Isaiah using BridgeSpeak to communicate with his class. His smile was radiant. "This is my son Isaiah. He's nonverbal due to selective mutism. When he was 6, his father called him defective and threw us both out of our home in the middle of winter. That night, sitting in a homeless shelter, I realized that Isaiah wasn't the one with a disability. The world had a disability, the inability to hear what nonverbal people have to say." The investors leaned forward. Naomi had learned that personal stories open doors. But data closed deals. BridgeSpeak currently serves 3 million users across 42 countries. Our user base includes children and adults with autism, cerebral palsy, ALS, stroke, traumatic brain injury, and various communication disorders. Our retention rate is 94%, nearly unheard of in the app space. She walked them through the financials, the growth projections, the market analysis. She showed testimonial videos that made even the hardest-faced investors blink back tears. She outlined her expansion plan. Professional features for workplace communication, integration with smart home devices, AI-powered learning that would predict needs before users typed them. "We're not just building an app," Naomi concluded. "We're building infrastructure for an underserved population of 50 million people globally. We're creating jobs for people with disabilities in testing, design, and community management. We're changing the conversation about what nonverbal people can achieve." The questions came fast. She answered every one with data and clarity. She had spent weeks preparing for this moment. When the presentation ended, the investors huddled together briefly. Then the lead investor, a woman named Christine Park who ran a major tech fund, stood up. "Ms. Rodriguez, I've been in venture capital for 20 years. I've seen thousands of pitches. This is the most compelling investment opportunity I've ever encountered. Not just because of the numbers, though they're exceptional, but because of the mission. You're not just building wealth, you're building access and dignity." She extended her hand. "My fund wants to lead this round. 20 million, and we'd like to bring in strategic partners for an additional 10 million. Naomi shook her hand, keeping her expression professional even though she wanted to scream with joy. "Thank you. I look forward to working together." As the investors filed out, Regina stayed behind. She hugged Naomi tightly. $30 million. "Do you understand what you just did?" "I think I'm still processing it." You just became one of the most successful black female founders in tech. The press is going to be all over this. Naomi took a deep breath. Good. Let them come. I have a story to tell. The announcement hit the news the next day. Former homeless single mother raises $30 million for disability tech startup. The articles detailed her journey, her mission, and her meteoric rise. Her phone rang constantly. Interview requests from major publications. Speaking invitations from conferences. Partnership offers from Fortune 500 companies who wanted to integrate BridgeSpeak into their accessibility programs. And then, 3 days after the announcement, she received an unexpected email. From email protected, subject, congratulations. The email was short, I saw the news. I'm happy you found success. I hope we can talk soon about Isaiah. He is still my son. Travis. Naomi stared at it for a long moment. Then she deleted it without responding. Isaiah was not Travis's son in any way that mattered. Travis had given up that right when he called a 6-year-old defective and threw him out in the snow. Legally, Travis had supervised visitation rights per the divorce settlement. But Isaiah had never once asked to see him. And Naomi would never force it. She forwarded the email to Patricia Hughes with a note. Keep this for documentation. No response needed. That evening, Naomi picked Isaiah up from his new school, a specialized academy for gifted children with communication differences. The school used BridgeSpeak in every classroom. Isaiah was thriving, making friends, learning at his own pace. He ran to her when she arrived, his face glowing. He pulled out his tablet and typed rapidly, Mom, I got an A on my science project. Mrs. Patterson came to see it and she cried happy tears. Mrs. Patterson had moved to the new school as lead teacher when Naomi endowed a teaching position in her name. She was now developing curriculum that incorporated BridgeSpeak into every subject. That's amazing, sweetheart. Naomi hugged him tightly. I'm so proud of you. They went to dinner at a nice restaurant to celebrate, both his achievement and hers. Isaiah ordered for himself using BridgeSpeak, the waiter listening patiently as the app spoke his selections. They ate pasta and dessert and talked about everything and nothing. On the drive home, Isaiah typed a longer message. Mom, do you remember when we lived in that room with the creaky floor and you worked all the time and I was scared? I remember, baby. I'm not scared anymore. You made everything better. You're the best mom in the world. Naomi pulled over because she was crying too hard to drive safely. She hugged Isaiah and let herself feel all of it, the pain of those dark days and the joy of where they were now. You made me better too, she told him. Everything I built for you. Because you deserve the world. That night, after Isaiah was asleep, Naomi sat at her desk in their beautiful apartment and looked at the framed photo from their first day at the shelter. Mrs. Harris had taken it, Naomi and Isaiah sitting on the cots, holding hands, looking uncertain but determined. Beside it was a photo from the investment announcement, Naomi in her navy suit, Isaiah beside her in a blazer, both of them grinning at the camera. Same people. Different worlds. Naomi opened her laptop and looked at BridgeSpeak's user statistics. 3.2 million users now. Thousands of new downloads every day. Messages from families thanking her for giving their loved ones a voice. This was what revenge looked like when you did it right. Not destruction. Creation. Not tearing someone down. Building something so successful that your enemies became irrelevant. Travis was facing a medical board hearing and possible license suspension. Brittany had left him months ago according to mutual acquaintances. He was alone, disgraced, and powerless. Meanwhile, Naomi was a millionaire CEO with a company valued at over $50 million. She had a team of 50 employees. She had speaking engagements and awards and recognition. But more than all of that, she had Isaiah's happiness. She had purpose. She had built something that mattered. She didn't need to gloat or confront Travis. Her success was the only statement she needed to make. She closed her laptop and went to check on Isaiah one more time. He was sleeping peacefully, his BridgeSpeak tablet glowing softly on his nightstand, open to a message he had composed. Tomorrow will be amazing. Yes it will, Naomi whispered. Yes it will. 3 years after being thrown out in the snow, Naomi stood in the lobby of Talkbridge Technology's new headquarters, a 5-story building in the Innovation District with her company's logo prominently displayed on the entrance. The company had grown exponentially. BridgeSpeak was now available in 37 languages. They had expanded into assistive technology hardware, creating affordable tablets specifically designed for communication needs. Their revenue had reached $80 million annually. The company was valued at over $300 million. Naomi now employed 200 people, many of whom had disabilities themselves. Her head of product design was a non-speaking autistic man named Terrence who communicated exclusively through BridgeSpeak. Her chief technology officer was a woman who had recovered from a stroke and understood accessibility from lived experience. But Naomi's proudest achievement wasn't the money or the valuation. It was the TalkBridge Foundation, a non-profit arm of her company that provided free technology and training to families who couldn't afford it. They had equipped over 5,000 schools in underserved communities. They sponsored research into communication disorders. They offered scholarships to students with disabilities pursuing careers in technology. Isaiah was 9 now, tall and brilliant, still nonverbal but thriving in ways Travis never could have imagined. He attended an elite private academy that Naomi could now afford. He had friends, hobbies, dreams. He wanted to be a video game designer when he grew up. Mrs. Patterson had retired from teaching but worked part-time at the foundation, training teachers on how to implement communication technology. She was family now, joining them for holidays and birthdays. Naomi had purchased a house, a real house with a yard and 4 bedrooms and a home office. She drove a nice car. She wore designer suits. She had invested wisely and could retire tomorrow if she wanted to. But she didn't want to. This work gave her life meaning. On this particular morning, she was preparing for a television interview. A national morning show wanted to feature her story as part of their Women in Business series. Danny, now her chief operating officer, poked his head into her office. Nervous? A little, Naomi admitted. Don't be. You've done 100 interviews. This one's different. It's national. My story is going to be everywhere. Which means Travis is definitely going to see it. Naomi had barely thought about Travis in months. After his medical license was suspended for 2 years due to fraud violations, he had disappeared from public view. She heard through acquaintances that he was working as a consultant for a pharmaceutical company, making a fraction of his former salary. Brittany had married someone else, a tech entrepreneur who actually had money. I hope he does see it, Naomi said. I hope he understands exactly what he threw away. The interview aired the next morning. Naomi watched it with Isaiah over breakfast. The host had been warm and insightful, asking about her journey from homelessness to success, about building a company around her son's needs, about the future of assistive technology. The segment included footage of Isaiah using BridgeSpeak, his personality shining through every word the app spoke for him. It showed the TalkBridge office, the team at work, the families whose lives had been changed. You did good, Mom, Isaiah typed on his tablet, which read aloud, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us, Naomi corrected, kissing his forehead. Within hours, the interview had been shared millions of times on social media. Naomi's phone exploded with messages. Investors wanting to discuss acquisition offers. Tech companies wanting partnerships. Nonprofits requesting collaborations. And buried in the flood of emails, one from an unfamiliar address. Email protected. Naomi almost deleted it. But something made her click. Naomi, I saw your interview this morning. I need to speak with you urgently. It concerns Isaiah and his legal rights. There are things you don't know about the situation. Please call me at this number. Travis Mitchell. Naomi stared at the email, her jaw clenched. Legal rights? What could Travis possibly claim now? She forwarded it to Patricia Hughes, who called back within minutes. Don't respond, Patricia said firmly. This smells like desperation. Let me handle it. What could he possibly want? Money. He sees your success and thinks he deserves a piece of it. The divorce settlement was finalized. He has no claim to your company or your assets. But desperate people do desperate things. Patricia was right. 2 days later, Travis's lawyer contacted Patricia with a formal letter. Travis was claiming that because Isaiah's disability had inspired BridgeSpeak, and because Isaiah was his biological son, Travis deserved partial ownership of the company. The claim was absurd, legally groundless, but it was also a headache. He can't possibly win this, Naomi said in Patricia's office. He can't. But he can make noise. He can create bad publicity. He can drag this out and cost you time and money fighting it. Then what do I do? Patricia leaned back in her chair. You have 2 options. Option 1. We fight this publicly and make him look like the greedy, pathetic man he is. The court of public opinion will destroy him. Option 2. We offer him a settlement, a one-time payment to go away forever and relinquish any future claims. How much? I'd suggest $50,000. Enough that he feels he got something. Not enough to actually matter to you financially. Naomi thought about it. $50,000 was nothing to her now. It was less than she donated to charity monthly. But the principal grated. Then she thought about Isaiah. About the media attention a legal fight would bring. About her son seeing his father's name in headlines, making claims about him like he was property. Make the offer, Naomi decided. But add conditions. He signs a document relinquishing all parental rights except supervised visitation if Isaiah requests it, which must be approved by me. He signs a non-disclosure agreement preventing him from ever discussing me, Isaiah, or my company publicly. And he acknowledges in writing that he has no claim, now or ever, to any of my assets or businesses. Done. I'll have it drafted today. Travis signed within a week. Patricia said he looked broken when he came to her office. Older, thinner, defeated. He took the check and left without comment. Naomi felt nothing when Patricia told her it was final. No triumph. No anger. Just relief that this chapter was truly closed. She put the signed documents in a safety deposit box and went back to work. That month, Naomi launched a new initiative, BridgeSpeak for Workplace. It was designed specifically for nonverbal adults in professional settings, with features like presentation mode, meeting summaries, and integration with business software. The response was overwhelming. Companies started hiring nonverbal employees specifically because the technology made integration seamless. Users sent stories about getting their first real job, being promoted, participating fully in their careers. One email in particular stood out. Ms. Rodriguez, I'm a 32-year-old autistic woman who was told I would never work. Thanks to BridgeSpeak, I just got hired as a data analyst at a major firm. I'm crying as I write this. Thank you for seeing us as capable. Thank you for building tools that prove it. Naomi printed that email and hung it in her office. This was why she did the work. By the end of the year, TalkBridge Technologies had been approached by several companies interested in acquisition. The offers ranged from $300 million to $500 million. Regina advised Naomi to consider it. You could sell, become incredibly wealthy, and retire young. But Naomi wasn't interested in selling. This isn't just a business to me. It's my purpose. I'm not walking away from that. Instead, she decided to take the company public. An IPO would give her capital to expand globally while maintaining control. It would make her investors rich and reward her employees with stock options. It would cement BridgeSpeak's place as a permanent institution in the assistive technology world. The paperwork began. The preparations took months. But Naomi was building something that would outlast her. A company with a mission, a vision, and a commitment to serving people the world too often ignored. On New Year's Eve, 3.5 years after being thrown out in the snow, Naomi stood on her back deck watching fireworks with Isaiah. He was wrapped in a blanket, drinking hot chocolate, his tablet in his lap. He typed, "Mom, this was the best year ever. I love our life." "Me too, baby. Me too." She thought about where they had been and where they were going. The shelter seemed like another lifetime. Travis seemed like a character from someone else's story. She had built an empire from nothing. But more than that, she had built a life filled with purpose, connection, and joy. And she wasn't done yet. The news broke on a Tuesday morning. Former physician Travis Mitchell faces multiple lawsuits over patient harm. Naomi saw the headline while drinking coffee in her office. She clicked on the article almost against her better judgment. The details were damning. 7 patients were suing Travis for malpractice dating back to his time as a practicing physician. The cases included misdiagnosis, inappropriate treatment plans, and failure to properly monitor patients with serious conditions. One woman had suffered permanent kidney damage due to Travis prescribing medication without checking her medical history. Another man had undergone unnecessary surgery because Travis misread test results. The lawsuits claimed Travis had been distracted and negligent during the period of his affair with Brittany, prioritizing his personal life over patient care. The medical board had suspended his license 2 years ago for prescription fraud, but these civil cases were new. The article included a quote from one attorney. Dr. Mitchell demonstrated a pattern of negligence and incompetence that endangered lives. His clients deserve justice and compensation for the harm he caused. Naomi closed the article and sat back in her chair. She waited to feel satisfaction, vindication, the sweet taste of karma. Instead, she felt empty, maybe a little sad. This was the man she had loved once, the man she had sacrificed everything for. Now he was being publicly destroyed for his own actions. She didn't feel bad for him exactly. He deserved consequences for hurting people. But she also didn't feel the triumph she might have imagined years ago. Danny knocked on her door. "Did you see?" "I saw." "How do you feel?" "Honestly? I don't feel much of anything. He's not my problem anymore. That's growth, Danny said approvingly. You're focused on building, not on his destruction. He was right. Travis's downfall had nothing to do with her. She hadn't orchestrated it or wished for it. His own choices had led him here. That evening, Naomi attended a gala for the Disability Rights Organization where she was receiving an award for innovation. She wore an emerald green gown, her hair styled elegantly, diamond earrings glinting in the light. As she accepted her award, she spoke to the audience of 500 people. 4 years ago, I was told my son was defective. I was told he would never amount to anything. I was thrown away because I wasn't useful anymore. But here's what I learned. People who underestimate you are giving you the greatest gift. They're getting out of your way. The audience applauded. Isaiah sat in the front row with Mrs. Patterson, beaming. Today, my company serves 10 million users worldwide. We've created jobs, transformed lives, and proven that disability is not inability, it's just a different way of existing in the world. The person who called my son defective was wrong about everything. And his wrongness set me free to build something he could never imagine. After the speech, reporters crowded around her. One asked, Ms. Rodriguez, your ex-husband is facing serious legal trouble. Do you have any comment? Naomi paused, choosing her words carefully. I hope justice is served for anyone who was harmed. Beyond that, I don't spend energy thinking about the past. I'm too busy building the future. Do you feel vindicated? I feel focused. Vindication is passive. Success is active. I chose success. The quote went viral. I don't want vindication, I want success, became a headline across business publications. 3 days later, Brittany requested a meeting with Naomi through a mutual acquaintance. Naomi's assistant scheduled it without asking, then looked worried. Should I cancel it? She asked Naomi. No, Naomi said. I'm curious what she wants. Brittany arrived at Talkbridge headquarters wearing a designer suit and nervous energy. She looked older than Naomi remembered, harder somehow. The confidence she had displayed the night Naomi was thrown out was gone. They sat in Naomi's office, the awkwardness thick. Thank you for seeing me, Brittany began. I have 15 minutes, Naomi said neutrally. I'll be quick. I wanted to apologize for what happened 4 years ago. What Travis and I did was wrong. What I said to you that night was cruel. I was a different person then. Naomi studied her. What do you want, Brittany? Nothing. I saw what you built. I saw your interview. And I realized that you turned the worst thing that happened to you into something incredible. She trailed off. While you what? While I married someone for money and ended up divorced anyway. While I lost friends and respect. While I became exactly the shallow person I was pretending not to be. Naomi felt a flicker of something, not quite pity but understanding. You're not here for forgiveness. No. I know I don't deserve that. I'm here because I needed to say it out loud to someone who has every right to hate me. What we did to you and Isaiah was unforgivable. I participated in throwing a child out in the snow. I wore your dead mother's robe while doing it. I'm going to carry that shame forever. Naomi was quiet for a long moment. I don't hate you, Brittany. I don't think about you at all. You were a supporting character in the worst chapter of my life. I've written a whole new book since then. You're not even a footnote anymore. Brittany nodded slowly, tears in her eyes. That's fair. That's more than fair. I hope you find something meaningful to do with your life, Naomi said, standing to indicate the meeting was over. Not for my sake. For yours. Being someone's mistress, being someone's trophy wife. Those are small ambitions. You're capable of more. Brittany stood too. Thank you for saying that. Even if I don't believe it yet. After she left, Naomi sat in her office thinking. 4 years ago, Brittany had seemed like a villain in her story. Now she just seemed sad and lost. Naomi had learned something crucial. The best revenge wasn't in their destruction. It was in her own transformation. Travis's medical license suspension, his lawsuits, his public humiliation. None of that gave her satisfaction because she had already moved so far beyond him that his fall didn't register as victory. Her victory was Isaiah's happiness. Her company's impact. The lives changed. The future she was building. That night, she picked Isaiah up from his robotics club. He was excited about the project they were working on, a robot that could be controlled through communication apps like BridgeSpeak. Imagine, he typed as they drove home, if people who can't use their hands or voices could control machines to help them. We could design robots that respond to what they need. That's brilliant, sweetheart, Naomi said. You know what? Let's make it a Talkbridge initiative. You can lead the youth innovation team. Isaiah's eyes went wide. Really? I can work for your company? Our company, Naomi corrected. This was always for you, remember? You're 9 now. Old enough to start contributing ideas. We'll create a junior advisory board of kids who use assistive technology. You can all help us design the future. Isaiah hugged her so tightly she could barely breathe. Later, after Isaiah was asleep, Naomi checked her email. There was one from an address she didn't recognize with the subject line, "From an old student." She opened it cautiously. "Ms. Rodriguez, you don't know me, but I was one of Dr. Mitchell's patients when he was practicing. I'm one of the people suing him. I wanted to reach out because I read your interview and learned that you were married to him. I wanted you to know that his negligence with me happened during the time he was having an affair and you were still married. I'm so sorry you were married to someone capable of such carelessness. But I'm also grateful because your story inspired me. I have a disability now because of his malpractice. Seeing what you built with your son, seeing how you turned trauma into purpose, it gave me hope. Thank you for being proof that we can rebuild after betrayal. You saved more than communication. You saved lives by showing U.S. resilience is possible." Naomi read it 3 times, tears streaming down her face. This was the real karma. Not Travis's destruction, but the lives touched by what Naomi had built from the ashes of that destruction. She replied, "Thank you for sharing your story. I hope you get the justice you deserve. And I hope you know that your disability doesn't define your worth or your future. You are capable of extraordinary things. Please reach out if BridgeSpeak can ever help you." She hit send and closed her laptop. Karma wasn't something she needed to pursue. It was already here, woven into every success she achieved, every life she changed, every barrier she broke. Travis had fallen. But that wasn't her story anymore. Her story was about rising. Naomi was in a board meeting when her assistant interrupted, looking flustered. "I'm sorry, but there's someone downstairs demanding to see you. Security is holding him in the lobby." "Who is it?" "He says his name is Travis Mitchell and he's your ex-husband." The room went silent. Regina, who was on the board, raised an eyebrow. "Want me to have security remove him?" Naomi considered it. Part of her wanted exactly that. Wanted Travis escorted out, embarrassed, denied. But another part was curious. After all this time, after everything, what could he possibly want? "Give me 10 minutes, she told the board. "We'll reconvene." She took the elevator down to the lobby, her heels clicking on the marble floor. Through the glass walls, she could see Travis sitting in the reception area, flanked by 2 security guards. He looked terrible, thinner, grayer, wearing a suit that had seen better days. When he saw her, he stood up quickly. "Naomi, thank you for seeing me." "I haven't decided to see you yet," she said coolly. "What do you want, Travis?" "I need to talk to you. Please. Just 5 minutes." She gestured to a private conference room off the lobby. The security guards followed them in and stood by the door. Naomi remained standing, arms crossed. "You have 5 minutes. Start talking." Travis ran his hand through his thinning hair. "I saw your interview. I've been following your success. You've built something incredible." "For minutes." "Right. Okay. I'm in trouble, Naomi. The lawsuits, the legal fees, I'm drowning. I lost everything. My career, my reputation, my savings. Brittany left me years ago. I'm working as a medical consultant making a fraction of what I used to earn. I can barely afford rent." 3 minutes. Get to the point. "We're still legally connected through Isaiah. He's my biological son. And your company was built around technology for people like him. I think I deserve." "Stop," Naomi said, her voice ice. "You deserve nothing. Let me remind you of some facts. You called our son defective. You threw him out in the snow when he was 6 years old and sick. You took my wallet, my ID, my money, and left us with nothing. You told me he was the reason you needed another woman. Do you remember that night, Travis?" Travis looked at the floor. "I was angry. I didn't mean." "You meant every word. And now you show up here in my building at my company to claim you deserve something? Based on what? DNA? You think being a sperm donor makes you a father? I made mistakes. You made choices. Choices that defined who you are. You chose your affair over your family. You chose fraud over ethics. You chose cruelty over compassion. And every single consequence you're facing now is the direct result of those choices." Travis finally looked up and she saw desperation in his eyes. "I'm broke, Naomi. I'm being sued for millions I don't have. I'm facing potential bankruptcy. I need help." "You need help?" Naomi repeated slowly. "Did Isaiah get help when you abandoned him? Did I get help when you stole every penny from our accounts? Did your patients get help when you were too distracted by your affair to properly care for them? Please. I know I don't deserve your kindness, but... You're right. You don't. And you're not getting it. She pulled out her phone and opened a document. Patricia Hughes, my attorney, anticipated you might try this. She prepared something for you. She handed him her phone. On the screen was a legal document. What is this? Those are your options. Option 1. You sign a document permanently relinquishing all parental rights to Isaiah, including visitation. You sign a document acknowledging you have no claim to me, my company, or any of my assets, now or in the future. You sign a non-disparagement agreement preventing you from ever speaking about me or my company publicly. In exchange, I give you $100,000, a one-time payment to help with your legal fees. Option 2. You refuse to sign, I give you nothing, and I dedicate my considerable legal resources to making sure every patient you harmed knows exactly where to find you and how to sue you. Travis's hands shook as he read. You can't make me give up rights to my own son. I can if you agree to it. And you will agree to it because you're desperate and you need money. Isaiah hasn't asked about you once in 4 years, Travis. He doesn't want you in his life. He's happy, thriving, and surrounded by people who actually love him. You are nothing to him but a biological footnote. $100,000 won't cover everything I owe. That's not my problem. You can take it or leave it. But this offer expires when I walk out of this room. Travis looked at the document, then at her. How did you become so hard? Naomi laughed without humor. You made me hard. You threw away someone who loved you, who sacrificed everything for you, who would have stood by you through anything. You threw away your son because he didn't fit your image of perfection. You chose money and status and ego over family. And now you're shocked that I won't save you? She walked to the door, then turned back. I'm not hard, Travis. I'm strong. There's a difference. Hard people don't build companies that help millions. Hard people don't create foundations for homeless mothers. Hard people don't dedicate their lives to serving others. I'm strong because I survived what you did to me and chose to build something good from it. You're weak because you're still looking for someone else to save you from your own choices. Naomi, please. Sign the papers or don't. Either way, I'm done with you. She opened the door. Patricia was standing there, having arrived while they were talking. She handed Travis a pen. The choice is yours, Dr. Mitchell, Patricia said. But Ms. Rodriguez has a board meeting to return to. So decide now. Travis looked between them, trapped and desperate. Finally, he took the pen. His hand shook as he signed each document. Patricia collected them, checked each signature, and nodded. I'll have the payment processed within 48 hours. Congratulations, Dr. Mitchell. You just sold your son for $100,000. I hope you sleep well with that. She and Naomi walked away. Behind them, Travis sat in the conference room, the signed papers in front of him, looking smaller than Naomi had ever seen him. In the elevator, Patricia squeezed Naomi's hand. You okay? I'm fine. Actually, I'm better than fine. I'm free. He looked pathetic. He is pathetic. But that's not my concern anymore. When Naomi returned to the board meeting, Regina was waiting. Everything all right? Everything's perfect. Travis is officially and permanently out of our lives. Isaiah is legally protected from any future claims. And I never have to think about that man again. Good, Regina said. Now let's talk about the IPO timeline. That night, Naomi told Isaiah what had happened. She didn't hide the truth from him. He was 9, but he was smart enough to understand. Your biological father came to my office today, she said as they sat together after dinner. He wanted money. He signed papers giving up all his rights to you. You'll never have to see him or hear from him again unless you choose to. How do you feel about that? Isaiah thought for a long moment, then typed on his BridgeSpeak tablet. I feel nothing about him. He's not my dad. He's just a man who shares some DNA with me. You're my family. Mrs. Patterson is my family. Danny and Simone and Dr. Foster are my family. The people who chose to love me, that's what family means. He didn't choose me. So I don't choose him. Naomi hugged him tightly, tears streaming down her face. You're so wise, baby. When did you get so wise? I learned from you, the tablet said. You taught me that people who hurt us don't deserve space in our lives. You taught me to build good things and let the bad things go. That night, after Isaiah was asleep, Naomi took the signed documents Patricia had given her and put them in a safety deposit box. They were proof of what Travis had chosen, money over his child. Let that be his legacy. Her legacy would be something different entirely. She opened her laptop and started writing notes for the school's initiative she wanted to launch. Free BridgeSpeak technology for every public school in the country serving students with communication needs. It would cost millions. But she had millions now. She thought about the girl she used to be, sitting in college classes dreaming of starting a tech company. She thought about the woman she had become in the shelter, plotting her survival. She thought about the CEO she was now, with the power to change lives on a massive scale. Travis had tried to break her. Instead, he had freed her to become who she was always meant to be. She didn't need confrontation or revenge anymore. She had something better. She had peace, purpose, and power. And she was just getting started. The NASDAQ opening bell ceremony was surreal. Naomi stood on the balcony overlooking the trading floor with Isaiah beside her, both of them wearing formal business attire. Isaiah had insisted on a bow tie that matched his mother's emerald dress. Regina stood on her other side, beaming with pride. The rest of the Talkbridge leadership team was there. Danny, Simone, Dr. Foster, Mrs. Patterson, who had been given honorary board member status. When it was time, Naomi and Isaiah pressed the button together. The bell rang. Talkbridge Technologies was now publicly traded. Within the first hour, the stock price soared 40% above its opening price. By the end of the day, the company was valued at $1.2 billion. Naomi's personal stake was worth just over $500 million. She was a billionaire. Reporters crowded around her after the ceremony. Ms. Rodriguez, how does it feel to join the ranks of self-made billionaires? It feels like responsibility, Naomi answered honestly. This wealth isn't just mine. It belongs to every person who believed in this mission. It belongs to the 10 million users who trust us with their communication. It belongs to the future we're building together. What's next for Talkbridge? We're launching a global initiative to provide free communication technology to schools in developing nations. We're opening research centers focused on emerging assistive technology. We're creating a venture fund to invest in other founders building accessibility solutions. And we're proving that companies with a social mission can be just as successful as those focused purely on profit. Any comment on your ex-husband's recent bankruptcy filing? Naomi paused. She had heard through Patricia that Travis had indeed filed for bankruptcy, unable to pay the settlements from his lawsuits. He had lost his house, his car, everything. He was reportedly living in a studio apartment and working part-time. I don't wish suffering on anyone, she said carefully. But I also don't take responsibility for the consequences of other people's choices. I'm focused on the future, not the past. The quote made headlines, Billionaire CEO focuses forward, not backward. That evening there was a celebration at a rooftop venue overlooking the city. The entire Talkbridge family was there, employees, investors, board members, supporters. Naomi gave a speech thanking everyone who had believed in her vision. 5 years ago, she said, her voice carrying over the crowd, I was homeless with a 6-year-old son and $8 in my pocket. I was told I was worthless. I was told my son was defective. I was thrown away like trash. Tonight, I'm a billionaire CEO. But that's not the part that matters. She gestured to Isaiah, who stood beside her looking proud. What matters is that my son knows he is valuable exactly as he is. What matters is that 10 million people worldwide can now communicate who couldn't before. What matters is that we've created hundreds of jobs, changed countless lives, and proven that disability is not inability. The crowd applauded. Isaiah typed on his tablet, I want to say something. The room went quiet. Isaiah had never spoken at a public event before. His tablet's voice rang out clearly, My mom is the strongest person I know. When someone throws you away, you have two choices. You can believe them or you can prove them wrong. My mom proved them wrong. She didn't just survive. She built an empire. She didn't just succeed. She changed the world. I'm proud to be her son. Thank you all for being part of our family. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Naomi hugged Isaiah tightly as everyone applauded. Later, as the party wound down, Regina pulled Naomi aside. You did it. Everything you said you would do, you did. We did it together. No, Regina shook her head. I invested money. You invested everything, your heart, your time, your pain, your hope. This is your victory, Naomi. It doesn't feel like victory, Naomi admitted. It feels like peace. That's better than victory, Regina said wisely. Victory is about defeating someone else. Peace is about completing yourself. The months following the IPO were transformative. Naomi established the Rodriguez Foundation with an initial endowment of $50 million. The foundation had 3 pillars: providing assistive technology to underserved communities, funding research into communication disorders, and supporting homeless mothers rebuilding their lives. She funded a shelter renovation program, remembering Hope Street Shelter where she and Isaiah had spent their first night. She created scholarships for women returning to education after domestic abuse or homelessness. She built a job training center focused on tech skills for people with disabilities. Isaiah started his junior advisory board at Talkbridge, working with other kids to design new features and products. His robotics project, Robots Controlled by Communication Apps, became a full Talkbridge initiative with a team of engineers. Mrs. Patterson published a book on inclusive education with a foreword by Naomi. The book became required reading in teacher training programs across the country. And then, unexpectedly, Naomi's personal life bloomed. She met him at a conference on accessible technology. His name was Jordan Chin. Wait, I can't use Chin. Let me revise. His name was Jordan Bennett, a software engineer who had developed adaptive gaming technology for players with limited mobility. His younger sister had cerebral palsy, which had inspired his career path. They started talking at a networking event and didn't stop for 3 hours. He was kind, brilliant, and genuinely passionate about accessibility. He didn't know who Naomi was when they met, which was refreshing. Their first date was at a museum. Isaiah came along. Naomi was upfront about being a package deal. Jordan brought his sister Melissa, who used a wheelchair and communicated through bridge speak. The four of them spent the day together and it felt natural. "He's nice," Isaiah typed when they got home. "He listened to me. Not to you about me. To me." That was all Naomi needed to know. 6 months later, Jordan proposed at a Talkbridge Foundation event, going down on one knee in front of 500 people. Isaiah had helped plan it, choosing the ring and the moment. "I love your mom," Jordan said to Isaiah before proposing, "but I need your permission to ask her to marry me. You're the most important person in her life and I would never come between that. I want to add to your family, not replace anyone. Is that okay with you?" Isaiah had typed, "Yes. But mom still comes first." "Always," Jordan had agreed. The wedding was small and intimate, just family and close friends. Isaiah was the best man. Mrs. Patterson cried through the entire ceremony. Regina gave a speech about love and second chances. Naomi wore a simple white dress and felt beautiful. Jordan looked at her like she hung the moon. When they exchanged vows, she promised to build a life of partnership, respect, and joy. "I was told once that I was worthless without someone else," she said in her vows. "I spent years proving that wrong. Now I'm choosing to share my life not because I need someone to complete me, but because I want to build something beautiful together. You see me, Jordan. You see Isaiah. You chose us both. That's what love is." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. 2 years after the IPO, Naomi was invited to give the keynote address at the National Women in Technology Conference. The venue was massive, 3,000 attendees. The energy was electric. She walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. On the screen behind her was a photo of her and Isaiah from the shelter, side by side with a current photo of them at the Talkbridge headquarters. "7 years ago," she began, "I was thrown out of my home in the middle of winter with my 6-year-old son. We had nothing. No money, no home, no hope. Today I'm a billionaire. My company serves 15 million users globally. We employ 500 people. We've changed millions of lives." She paused, letting that sink in. This isn't a rags to riches story meant to inspire you to work harder. This is a story about what happens when someone tries to break you and you refuse to stay broken. This is a story about turning pain into purpose. She talked about the shelter, the cleaning jobs, the library computers, the first prototype, the rejection and the persistence. "People ask me if I ever see my ex-husband, if I ever confronted him about what he did. The truth is, he became irrelevant the moment I decided to build something meaningful. He threw me away thinking I was disposable. I proved I was indispensable. Not to him. To the world." The audience was silent, hanging on every word. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's creation. It's building something so successful, so impactful, so undeniably important that the people who doubted you become footnotes in your story. They don't matter anymore. Your success is the only statement you need. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. After the speech, women crowded around her. Some were crying. Many shared their own stories of abuse, abandonment, and survival. Naomi listened to each one, gave advice when asked, and reminded them that their stories weren't over. "You're still writing your ending," she told a young woman who had recently left an abusive marriage. "Make it spectacular." That night, back in her hotel room, Naomi video called Isaiah and Jordan. They were at home having dinner together. "How was the speech?" Jordan asked. Good. Really good. How was your day? Isaiah typed. We made pizza. Jordan let me add pineapple even though he thinks it's wrong. Pineapple on pizza is objectively wrong, Jordan said, but I'm learning to accept my stepson's terrible taste. They all laughed. It was such a normal, beautiful moment. A family dinner. Simple jokes. Well, this was what she had built. Not just a billion-dollar company. Not just technology that changed lives. But a home filled with people who chose each other, respected each other, and built something good together. After they hung up, Naomi stood at her hotel window looking out at the city lights. She thought about Travis somewhere out there, probably still bitter about his losses. She thought about Brittany hopefully finding something meaningful to do with her life. She thought about all the people who had doubted her or dismissed her. And she felt nothing but gratitude. They had freed her to become this person. They had forced her to discover strengths she didn't know she had. They had pushed her to build something bigger than herself. She didn't forgive them exactly. But she didn't hold on to the anger anymore either. She had peace. She had purpose. She had a family she chose and who chose her back. She had won without them even realizing there was a competition. The next morning, Naomi flew home. Jordan and Isaiah picked her up at the airport. Isaiah ran to her and hugged her tightly. Jordan kissed her and took her bag. Welcome home, he said. Home. A word that used to mean a place she was thrown out of. Now it meant a place she built herself. A place filled with love and safety and possibility. As they drove through the city toward their house, Naomi looked at her family, her husband who saw her as an equal partner, her son who was thriving beyond anyone's expectations, and she smiled. She had been thrown away like trash 7 years ago. Today she was priceless. And that was the only revenge she would ever need.